Weed hunt. All right, we're going to call our meeting to order for the Economic Development Committee. First order of business is to approve our minutes from September 16th. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, now we're gonna deviate from our agenda, and we're gonna go ahead and go into executive session to discuss a contractual matter related to Project Palmetto Rock. Do I
Okay.
have a motion?
Yeah, motion for contractual matter project Palmetto Rock.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, move into executive session. Thank you. All right, there was no action taken out of executive session. We are going to change the agenda up a little bit, and we're going to invite Zach Lester and Mitch Miller to talk to us about the Bailey Bill in Clover, South Carolina.
I want to do a quick presentation, and then I'll invite Zach up to kind of talk about what they're working on in Clover and the impact of what a project can mean for them. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can now. Thank you.
So I don't know how familiar you are with the Bailey Bill, but I thought it might be helpful to kind of go through a quick overview and show you some successful projects across the state, and then let Zach come up and really give his perspective of what something like this can mean for Clover. So real quickly, the Bailey Bill is a state-authorized historic rehabilitative incentive. Essentially what it does, it freezes property tax at pre-rehab value. The best way I can explain it, if you have a property valued at $100,000 and essentially improvements are done to maybe get that to $500,000, the Bailey Bill allows to really freeze that assessment as a benefit to the developer or the company who is going to rehab a historic space. Essentially allow to be able to leverage a little bit more of incentive and value out of that project because of the work that goes in to restore some of these historic structures. As it relates to the government, essentially what has to be in place is ordinance or policy has to be put in place in regards to the Bailey Bill. Part of that would outline what we are comfortable for as a government. So we can go up to 20 years and freeze that value, but we can also, if we're more comfortable with a 10-year time frame, that would be part of our policy and essentially something that we would have to manage and report back to for any project that we do. You can have a policy that mirrors something that Clover or York or Fort Mill has already adopted, or we could have our own that would be really at the discretion of council and what they're comfortable with. Again, it's part of that ordinance. You have eligibility standards, set the freeze period where we would be looking at, and essentially allows us the ability to more than anything, really work with our municipalities to make it a little bit more attractive if developers are going to come in and look at former textile facility, historic building in a downtown, things of those nature. So a little bit of what this means to a property owner. It helps them with tax certainty. So if they're going out to finance the project, they can speak a little bit more what that assessment will be because they know what it is on the tax rolls today, which helps with cash flow on the project as a whole. Obviously, just like what it would with a FELO, with a special source revenue credit, as we consider projects of that value, this would also help reduce the tax burden for a developer or a company that would be restoring a property. And more than anything, I think when you really look at the dynamics for a community, it's an incentive to focus on repurposing and reuse rather than demolition. And so obviously we know that there's some historic structures in each of our municipalities and communities. That's part of a character, part of the story of why communities came to be in general. And so it's protecting that identity and that history. A couple examples that I wanted to point out too. I'll show really a large and a smaller one. One you may be familiar with is in Charleston, South Carolina, the Cigar Factory building. Essentially, it took a historical building, converted it into a mixed-use facility. As part of that, included office, retail, and creative space. And really what you had there was a significant private investment, came in, restored a structure that again, captured the character and integrity of a space rather than a standard, tear down and rebuild of a common building that you see in most every other community. And really what it did to that building specifically really became an anchor for surrounding neighborhood revitalization and kind of a catalyst for growth. Tom, do you have a question?
Yeah. So is this, I know it stated state and federal credits on this thing. Is this also related to the opportunity zone that Tim Scott had created a few years ago? Like, is part of that bill from the Senate? Do you know?
That's a good question. I don't know if it's tied in with it all, but
I'm just curious because I think this is a great opportunity to bring in unique businesses into those locations.
I think what it relates to really is it's a local incentive that could be layered on top of some of those things.
Okay.
If some of these facilities or buildings or sites are in an opportunity zone.
Yeah.
But we're really looking at local taxes, freezing those for a period of time in terms of the actual assessment. Mm-hmm. And so a company or a developer could come in and make their project more financially feasible.
Okay.
Another one I'll make mention of is in Pendleton, South Carolina. So again, a former textile mill. The developer is currently turning that into residential loft apartments and essentially keeping the character rather than tearing it down and building just your traditional multifamily. So again, it's protecting kind of that integrity, culture of the community in a space that at one point in time was really important to the growth of Pendleton, South Carolina. For them specifically, housing was a need. That's something they wanted to focus on, and so they were to partner with a developer to get a quality product out of that. I do think it's fair to look at pros and cons. You know, I think when you evaluate any economic development deal, you have to take that into account. I put those up on the list, glad to go through those, but I think more than anything from a pro standpoint, it encourages reinvestment back into a community. Clover is a great example, and I'll have Zach talk about it. You've got a pretty iconic structure that's dilapidated today. And so when you have a developer come in, bring a space back to life, it's going to generate a lot of interest from other development and want to be surrounded around that, especially if it provides jobs, people beyond. And again, I think it goes back to preserving that character of a community. A little bit more on the pro side, can support small business, can support additional housing if that's something that's needed for the community. Gives a little bit of flexibility where we can be, you know, a little bit more choosy towards sites that we think are important. You know, as part of that, I would contemplate, and I'll talk on the next slide, of really doing evaluation across York County of what spaces we think we would want to target if this is something we approve. On the con side, it does delay growth in our property tax revenue. You know, we would be freezing an assessment for a period of time, and essentially as things happen around that building, we'd be playing the waiting game to see revenue come back into the county. It does require administrative oversight, so just like with Philo, we're going to have to keep a whole nother, you know, file folder for these types of projects and do reporting just as we do with the Department of Revenue today. And really, it's only focused on historic properties. You know, obviously, there's some sites that could require redevelopment, but this really is more towards historic preservation. So, you know, on that side, we're limited really to the stock that we have in terms of vacant buildings that are dilapidated. I think moving forward, if this is something that we would look at doing, you know, these are a list of items that I would encourage us to consider before we adopt any policy. Essentially, working with municipalities, identifying sites that we feel comfortable to say, if we do this for this site, this is what we would expect would happen because of that. Setting thresholds for investment, the length, making sure that you would be comfortable with those timelines, investments tied to it, and again, just what does oversight look like as we look to report and make sure that you all are comfortable knowing that if we're doing these things, what's the expectation on reporting. I do want to invite Zach up. Zach, you want to talk a little bit about Clover and how you see this bill working for you all?
Thank you, Mitch. Stole most of my thunder there, but appreciate it. I guess this time of
We
year.
steal your thunder and we make you wait an hour. That's
Yeah.
what we do.
Yeah,
We're glad to have you.
I'll
Yeah.
remember that next time I get a phone call. No, I'm just kidding. I'm happy to be here. And I really do appreciate y'all being here too. I know now's the time of year where most people could be watching Hallmark movies or sipping cocoa or, you know, spending time with their loved ones or whatever, but, you know, you chose to be here and talk about tax policy, so thank you for your dedication to our communities and to service.
You're welcome.
Like Mitch said, my name is Zach Lester. I was born and raised here, South Carolina, York County, originally from Clover. I've had the honor of serving as Clover's town administrator for the past year, a little over a year now. Doing so has allowed me to be here tonight in front of you, and I appreciate that opportunity. And I want to be here to talk about something that I consider pretty important, especially in regards to Clover. So, but before I get into that, just a little quick tale about Clover, and I'm sure you all are pretty aware of it, but, you know, it's got charm, it's growing, it's geologically built like a rock quarry disguised as a small town. It's one of those places that if you start digging 6 inches down, you're going to hit granite. 12 inches, you're probably going to call your insurance agent. Um, Meanwhile, you know, Clover's sitting there, we're looking around, and, you know, we see other towns growing, other cities growing at a pace that it, you know, it feels like we need some sort of seatbelt put on around us to keep us in place. But, you know, Fort Mill's growing so fast, Rock Hill's reinventing itself again, and Lake Wiley has more rooftops than trees. And we're growing, but we're not growing at a regional pace. One of the biggest reasons is simply because it costs a whole lot more to fix what you already have than to build fresh on a clean slate. And especially in older towns with character. And character to developers or to investors usually means expensive surprises behind every wall. And that brings me to the Bailey Bill. So South Carolina's Bailey Bill, as Mitch mentioned, gives counties and municipalities the ability to freeze the taxable value of qualifying historic or income-restricted buildings at their prehab value for up to 20 years. As far as requirements go, it requires owners to invest at least 20% of the building's value in eligible renovations following specific state and local standards. It's not really a tax break. It's not really a giveaway. It's basically the government saying, go ahead and fix the place up and we'll keep taxing you with the ugly version a little while longer. It's a timing tool. It's one that costs the county nothing up front other than the administrative burden that I'm sure Josh is ready to take on. It encourages private reinvestment in older, harder to develop areas. And there's some folks already using it. Richland County's already using it. Greenville's using it, and Abbeville County's using it. Greenville's just integrated it into its redevelopment strategies. Abbeville County has a successful unified city-county Bailey Bill partnership program where they've worked with the city of Abbeville as well. And if Abbeville can do it, there's no reason that York County can't. We've got more people, more projects, and more reasons to use it. But getting back to Richland County, Columbia and Richland County recently commissioned a full economic impact analysis, and here's some data on some of the things they found. Since 2007, 210 Bailey Bill projects have been approved. Those totals came up to $216 million in private rehab investment. Of that, half the projects were under $100,000. That means small town on small business scale, and these are your mom and pops. These are your generational, your legacy property owners trying to do something with what they were given. The research data also shows that over a 30-year period that local governments come out financially ahead. The Bailey Bill, and that's if the Bailey Bill convinces at least 1 out of every 4 owners to fix up their old buildings when they otherwise wouldn't have. If that holds true, then the county ends up with more money later. But getting back to York County, like Mitch mentioned, Clover, York, and Fort Mill already have adopted their Bailey Bill ordinance. But we can only freeze the municipal portion of that tax bill. What that looks like is ordering a steak dinner and splitting the cost of the side salad. It doesn't make sense from an investor-developer point of view. The municipalities are trying to do their part, but the biggest portion of that tax bill is still fully exposed. And that scares off a lot of the smaller investors and developers, which this tool is designed to attract. The county's participation in this is the difference between a nice idea and a fully feasible project, or a nice idea and a major project that exemplifies some of our hometown's character and a catalyst that could create a level of economic commerce that we knew was always there but have never experienced. So why should we adopt the Bailey Bill? Again, it leverages private money and not public dollars. Developers invest their own funds into old buildings. The county only delays taxing the new value. It also strengthens the long-term tax base. If adopted, you start collecting steady revenue now and much higher revenue later, instead of low revenue potentially forever. It creates opportunities for small towns and rural corridors. Not every community can bank on having that industrial campus or that master plan subdivision, but it can rehab its own community block as long as the numbers work. If adopted, it aligns your message with the municipalities that already have the Bailey Bill adopted as an ordinance. Right now, you know, from the point of view of an investor or developer, it looks like we're all singing our own songs. But with the county level Bailey Bill, we can all finally start to start to harmonize. And it pairs perfectly with existing state incentives. Along with the Bailey Bill, there's something out there called the Textile Revitalization Act. There's also the Abandoned Buildings Act. When all these work together, the investment starts flowing in the places that need it most. So, as County Council, Economic Development Board, you have the rare ability to see the big picture, not just for a single town, but for the entire county. I'm asking that you recommend to County Council and the County Manager to draft and adopt a countywide Bailey Bill ordinance aligned with municipal programs structured as a pilot program focused on historic and redevelopment corridors. We need something that's simple, practical, high impact. In closing, I'm not here today to share specific examples from Clover, not because we don't have them, but because I'm bound to the rules of executive session, and I enjoy being employed. But I can tell you that when the county does participate, the pipeline for potential projects across York County, from Clover to York to Fort Mill, Lake Wiley, older corridors and rural intersections that some people, only certain people know of, they all instantly become a more financially viable project or place to have a new development. The Bailey Bill won't break your budget, it won't create loopholes or hand out freebies, but it will shine up those old places that we already have, those very places that make up York County and give us our hometown feel. Right now, we have a financial tool just sitting on a workbench, gathering dust. I say we pick it up, start using it, and give York County a real opportunity and a meaningful chance to reinvest in our people and our shared future. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank
Merry
you,
Christmas,
Zach.
God bless.
Guys, y'all have any questions, comments?
Yeah,
Zach?
I just have one question. So it's, you know, part of the comment was we need to identify our historic locations. What is the criteria around identifying a historic location? Does that have to be 50 years old, 100 years old? What is the baseline?
I think that it's, building's got to be at least 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be on the national registry or locally designated.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if it has to be 50 years old plus the national or local designation, one or the other.
It's one or the other.
Yep. As far as the financial requirements, the owner must invest at least 20% of the fair market value. That's got to be spent on qualifying rehabilitation projects, procedures, and construction process.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
And I think the biggest thing that, you know, my research with it, getting on the National Historic Register is really, that's a process in itself.
It is,
And so, you know, if there are buildings that are already on that within York County,
right.
that's where I would start, essentially say, if it's on the registry, it should be included
Yeah.
as part of policy.
It'd be interesting to see the inventory that's out there and identify where it is and what is the strategic value of each of those. And, or if it's just 50 years old and you don't have to be on registry, then that opens up another, you know, opportunity, so, okay. All right.
First, anything you want to add?
Thank you, Zach, for preparing that information. And it seems like eons ago, was it just earlier this year, we got to have the benefit of hearing information about your comprehensive plan. And I love the idea that Clover is embracing preserving and rehabilitation instead of, you know, some of the growth that we're seeing some around. I think that's what the community is really interested in doing. And I think having as many tools in our tool belt that are available makes sense to me. I guess I am curious about one thing. My lawyer mind goes to, obviously, you have to set out the criteria. It sounds to me like so is what we have to do is actually pass an ordinance that makes it open and available to any of the properties within the county that would qualify under the criteria to be eligible for that. There's no ability to like selectively say, here, we think it makes sense here, it makes sense over here.
Well, and I think that's one of the go-dos for us, just to jump in, is to get y'all's feedback. I think working with the county attorney, we can look at the opportunity to make it more project-specific. But I think that's where Mitch was talking about doing an inventory and looking. The towns that have implemented the Bailey Bill here have done it for most of their historic registry buildings. But I think we'd have to look at, is there an opportunity
But
to
is
make
this
it more
something the county has to adopt,
project-specific?
or the local
The local municipalities, the three are York, Fort Mill, and Clover, have adopted policies.
They've already adopted them?
Yeah.
What we could do is take a look at those policies in more detail. If we wanted to include or exclude buildings, but also to look at the length and timeline. You can do a freeze up to 20 years, but if we wanted to say we're more comfortable with a 10-year, 15-year, I think it's just getting the feel of this committee and full council.
Are y'all specifically looking for an action item here tonight, or are you just, what do we need to do? What are you recommending as a proposed course?
I think a recommendation from this group, if this is something you want to pursue, we can begin drafting some type of ordinance for you to consider at this next committee, if that's something you're interested in.
And we'd like to engage with all the towns that have it
Without a doubt.
locally in York County, but also work to look at what other counties are doing in the state,
Right.
and then bring back that information to y'all, to continue to get your feedback and adjust what might come into being.
Yeah, I think there's value in what I think definitely value. I just think though project-oriented approval as opposed to mass approval would be my choice because you could control that environment, so, yeah,
Understand?
yeah. So go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it could be an impressive project. I think, the Thread in Rock Hills, 400,000 square feet. I think it benefited from the Bailey Bill. Your property's on 16 acres, blighted. I've ridden by it for 25 years thinking, God, I'd love to own that building. After hearing what you shared earlier, maybe I should have bought it, but 4 stories, I think 16,000 square feet, that could be significant for the town of Clover. And I think this is the right way to go about doing it personally.
So I would like to move forward with a request to refer this to staff to take the next step in researching this, and coming back with some ideations and proposals around how we could possibly move forward.
Thank you.
Do we need to make a recommendation that we have to bring to council first, or are we just still do an exploration process?
I think we come back to y'all one more time
Yeah.
with a more concrete plan before going to
Before we
full
get it.
council. Yep.
Sounds good.
Do you want that in a motion or just an action item? Just an action item, right? Yes, sir, just an action. Yeah.
Action, okay.
You in agreement, Christie?
You mean just an action item? Put it on our
Send to
list.
staff, to send to staff for them to complete a little more due diligence.
Staff will come back with
Report back to the
Yeah,
committee.
to
Yeah.
report back.
We don't
yeah.
need to do anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yep.
we're all in favor of that, so,
Yeah.
all right, thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, you got it.
All right, Zach, thank you for being here. Don't feel like you have to stay. You probably have other things to do. So thank you for coming in tonight. All right, we're going to
Thank you.
move to item number 2, discussion regarding the Economic Development Board project and focus as well as committees.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wanted to provide you all with an update. To date, I have met with 5 of the 7 Economic Development Board members. I've got my 6th meeting coming up on Friday, and my 7th will be early January, just due to vacation timing schedule of the individual. I have met with each of your representatives that you've appointed. Appreciate the time and thought that you put into that. Councilmember Haddad, I met with yours this morning for breakfast, so that was great. That was a great
Excellent.
meeting. Wanted to quickly kind of give you an overview of what I've talked with them about, and essentially look at a breakdown between, what I would envision this committee versus this board that's been appointed would be responsible for and how we move forward. But did want to get feedback from you all, but in essence, you've heard a lot of what we've talked about because we spent a year and a half really working on a strategic plan, targeted impacts, really trying to prep this board with the idea that everything we do really is framed around these targeted impacts, from higher wage projects all the way to looking at workforce development, enhanced mobility. Specifically have gone into detail with each of those members I've met with to talk about our capstone projects and laid out to them that I really see this board being advocates, champions, trying to move things forward from a community level as it relates to these projects, whether it be Project Trail Mix, Next Crop York, or Digital Main Street and supporting small business. Breaking that down and what I really see as kind of the difference between the two, between what we bring here to this committee and what we bring to the board. I think this committee really is the group that sets policy, that essentially considers incentives, projects, and makes recommendations directly to the full council. We've talked about strategic planning already. I think as things evolve in future years as well, really I'm looking to council members for guidance on what's important and how that works in coordinates with what staff is doing and management's expectations are. And then lastly, just reviewing and recommending the use of public funds. We've got the ED fund. Essentially, at the end of the day, I think this board could offer some suggestions, but it's your call, and I think you make that recommendation directly to council. It would not be from the board, because those are public dollars, and at the end of the day, y'all are the ones that are responsible for making that decision. Looking from the board level, I see it really as an advisory group to give you guidance on what the community is looking for and needs, ways that they see that we can progress projects forward, really providing input from the community as a whole. I think that's one thing that we are missing, and I'm excited to have this board really be focused on, is being more of a community voice and getting us the opportunity to have more interaction with the community. That's very much needed in the world of economic development, and I think we can look to a few projects to realize how important that is. Talk about serving as ambassadors for the initiatives like Trail Mix, Next Crop York, Digital Main Street. I think two, one that I talked with Scott Miller this morning about was really identifying opportunities, whether it be looking at underutilized sites, corridors, as we talk about the I-77 South Corridor, really looking at things like Project Trail Mix and helping us identify sites and really looking on the real estate side of things. With his experience and background, I think he could really play a big key role in that and offering you up suggestions and advice on if we want to get in the land development business or acquisition side. So being able to tap into that expertise, I think really is going to be helpful. But I did think it would be helpful for us to really look at this breakdown, kind of how we're looking at it from a staff level. But I want to make sure that you all were comfortable with that as well.
I have some questions about, I don't see on here, one of the biggest assignments that we've sent to the board, that my understanding was, and I don't necessarily disagree with, the council is the ultimate authority on setting the policy, and clearly we don't need to be changing how the incentives are done. I'm wondering how is the board, the whole idea with making sure that we have this board instituted was for the board to really be able to take the initiative, especially that one, to work cooperatively and provide recommendations, whether they're to the council as a whole help me understand where that initiative is falling in this, because obviously that's critical, ensuring that we attract some higher quality development
You're talking
on the
about
corridor.
the I-77 South Corridor?
Right.
Yeah, that was really that last bullet point under the board. I didn't specifically say I-77 South Corridor, but it's looking at underutilized sites or corridors. I did specifically talk with Scott about that today as a key priority.
But I guess, do they have enough information? Because when we authorize this board, since there's going to be membership from 7 of the
Yep.
council members, and that gives a broader scope to this, are we not prepared? Isn't that one of their action items to start working on as soon as they get convened?
It is, and I probably could have outlined that better as I did with Trail Mix and others. But as I've talked to each of them, that's a key priority that we're focused on, and then I told them that they would be responsible for.
Because the board's going to be looking at this, and the board's going to make recommendations on trail mix, crop. The whole point was to give them this information and to let them take the ball and run with it and have representation throughout the county.
Without a doubt. And in each of these individual meetings, I've gone into detail with them on those projects.
Okay.
I've talked about their role in that and essentially what we need from a community advocacy standpoint. So having them be able to come in and guide us as it relates to engaging the community, I think would be important, but also to reporting back to you all.
So do you have a scope that you're prepared to share with them on each of these items, or so that they know what they're being asked to do when they start working these 3 plus the
Yep.
corridor study?
I do, without a doubt. I
Okay.
think the most important thing for us, though, meeting one, is establish who's going to chair this committee, or this board, I apologize, and a cadence of when we're going to meet, how often we're going to meet, and again, really looking at what is our role within each of these projects, and if there's anything else that we think we need to be involved in based off of community input, or things that are important to the group as a whole, that we include that.
Yeah.
But I definitely want this group, and what I've shared with each of them is, this will be the advisory group for staff and for this committee that reports directly to council.
Anything that we can do to, I think this is an awesome thing that we finally have the board reconstituted, and we need them to be doing the work and understanding what their scope of work is. There's nothing worse than being on a board and not understanding what your role is and what your job is and what the focus is, and or to spend your time on it and then feel like you've spent your wheels. So
Yeah.
thank you for making sure all that's clarified and including that's in that.
Yeah, thank you all for getting this board together. I think it's an important thing. It's something I've had in every single community I've been and served in. So, having that community connection is going to be something really important. So
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, I think the clear understanding of their scope is critical, absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Mitch.
Yep,
Thanks for
absolutely.
coming tonight, Mitch. Appreciate you
Appreciate it.
meeting with the board members and establishing the criteria.
Yeah, nice job, Mitch.
All right, item number 4 on our agenda, I'd like Tom Couch to come up, please, to talk to us about the Newport Small Area Corridor Plan and the tentative work that we have ahead of us.
Good evening, council members. It's good to see you tonight. I'm going to try to get you a little closer to that Hallmark movie and hot cocoa that Zach was talking about.
There you
It
go.
shouldn't take very long at all because I was tasked to give you, the committee, an update on this particular fledgling project. So I'm going to run through a few slides very quickly, but I also want you to note that you've been sent electronically, and I think you have a paper copy of what would represent a detailed scope of work for this project. And as I proceed to next steps, I'll talk a little bit about maybe an approach that will perhaps help save us some money on a project like this. But I also want to reemphasize why this is important to consider. I asked the planning department and their GIS analyst, I kind of wish I'd asked them to make the lines a little bit thicker, but I wanted to give at least some kind of representation after discussing with planning where we think a good planning boundary would be, and represented in, I guess, kind of pink, velvet purple. That would be the study area boundary. And then when you go into the white lined area, that would represent the two corridors of SC 161 and SC 274/Hands Mill Road. And you'll recall at the last meeting, when we, and maybe it's been 2 meetings now that I think of it, why do we want to do this? And these are the 4 essential reasons. The area is already growing, and as you recall, last month you approved an entitlement for a significant development at Newport Commons. But we also have circumstances where not only do we have utilities out there, but these 2 roads intersect 2 primary corridors. I guess you could call them also minor arterials. They're 5-lane access roads or accessible roads. They're not divided highways. And there has been obviously some development in the area, especially moving up toward Allison Creek or other parts of Lake Wiley, but also westward. We're starting to see some growth and development emerge going toward York. So when you take all of these things into consideration, and I appreciate the initiative of the committee for looking at this, now is the time to try to do some sort of advanced planning. So even though we're a little bit behind, we want to stay ahead of the curve in trying to control the growth or manage the growth, and also make sure that we direct and improve the infrastructure that's available in a smart growth fashion. And one of the things that I worked on with planning, just doing a little bit of a planning crosswalk as it relates to the county strategic plan and the comprehensive plan. The application is where the small area and corridor plan would align with these two specific plans, but we can also consider other types of plans that we have now or in the future, whether they're operational or aspirational. The next two slides kind of illustrate in a very brief way, title-wise, the scope of work and the deliverables that would need to be achieved during the scope of the project. And then if you happen to look into those, the detailed scope of work I gave you electronically, that really elucidates a lot of the project initiatives and the tasks that we would actually have to try to accomplish in the course of doing this. Now, these items here, this is the implementation focus. I think once that a small area in a corridor plan would be completed, we would have to evaluate what types of zoning or land use code tools we need to improve upon or to enhance, because what you're really trying to do, if you go back to this geographic area, I think it's very, very important that you want a signature look for that part of the county. You know, you already have a lot of emerging residential neighborhoods, and if you do corridor planning in the proper way and you control or manage access of traffic, you also want to make sure the type of new development you have reflects the character of the area, maybe its history if it has any, but you want it to be very attractive as well, whether it comes down to landscaping signage. And even though we have some robust land use codes, you might want to achieve something at a higher or a different level. So, you know, and we also talk about the performance metrics that we're trying to put together related to our county strategic plan, but really the land use, the utilities, and the road infrastructure, these are all of the things that you're trying to get ahead of and trying to improve. And the other benefit of trying to do this or combining these two types of plans is that it would also be a wise idea to have something that fits into our capital improvements planning that we're now reimagining, I guess.
Yes.
And I think these kinds of plans can fit very well into that if we task the staff and the consultants to be intentional about it. Very briefly, this just gives you a snapshot of what not so much a staffing plan, but a timeline would look like. It would be a 9 to 12 month project, and it would certainly align with all the task deliverables that would be in the detailed scope of work. And we've also established a county staffing plan, sort of a pro forma of what kind of effort that we would have to contribute to help make the consulting engagement successful. If you'll recall at the last meeting, and another reason for the detailed scope of work, I think it's very important to make sure that if we do engage a consultant to do this work, that we be as specific as possible as what we want to do, because they'll hedge their costs and pricing a little bit higher if they have to guess at what we want. So I think it's very important if we go down this road, you as a committee and ultimately the entire council to review this information and let it just become embedded in your mind a little bit, give you an appreciation of what needs to be done. And of course, this is really the glide path with the next steps. This would be something that we would need to budget, and we've tried to be intelligent in thinking about a way that we can dampen the costs a little bit. And in discussion with Jonathan Buono and Diane Dill, it might be a good idea to make this project, well, first let me back up. You may know that next year we have a mandatory comprehensive plan update. And I think what we could do is we could put an ad alternate into the procurement of that plan And then, and if you get the consultant who does a comprehensive plan, this ad alternate would be a natural fit for the consultant to work on. They're already working on the same kind of things on a countywide basis. So all they would be doing is adding a little bit of additional focus here. That way you're not paying tens of thousands of dollars for one plan and the same tens of thousands of dollars for another. I think you can sort of get a, I don't want to call it a quantity discount, but a focus discount if we can combine those projects together. And then use the ad alternate to see, do we really want to go forward with this? So I think ultimately, this was just intended to be an update. I think we've got a good framework for doing this kind of plan. If you in the balance of council are interested in doing it, and I think we can take an approach that will be the most cost-effective for getting it done. If you have the patience to wait until we can perhaps piggyback it onto the comprehensive plan. And that's all I have, unless you have questions or comments.
So having this drawn up here, I guess, and I just don't want to understand would we go ahead and review what you've submitted, and then our next meeting, we could then recommend to go to full council for approval? Or are we going to refer this out to council, let the process happen and get it in front of everybody so we can kind of move the pendulum quicker?
Well, I will defer to some degree to the county manager, because I think this would be part of a budget ask as well. So maybe that would fall into line with the budgeting process and the calendar that we're going to take.
Right, I think this is gonna be one of those items that if y'all are interested in us pursuing, we guide it through the budget process, and we have conversations around it during the budget process. But what we wanna make sure we do is inform that item in the budget with y'all's feedback to make sure it's what you wanna see done. So we're able to report back on that as we get into more of the throes of the budget, if y'all give us the feedback to do that. But there's not funding set aside anywhere right now
Well,
for this.
Well, real quick to finish on my thought, just because, again, we're talking about the plan and also incorporating Newport. I think that we need to be, to be more upfront to get it to the rest of the county, or council, excuse me, to get their perspective on it. I just want to make sure that we stay ahead of that curve, and I think the quicker we get that feedback, I think it makes it more foundational for you.
Yes, and if we're gonna go through the budget process, if there's other areas y'all also want us to add to this, that's another part of it too. But this was one of those that y'all prioritized in the discussions earlier as a committee, so we wanted to kind of give this a little more meat for y'all to consider. And if y'all are in agreement in this, yeah, we're glad to bring this to other council members and share with them as well.
Well, I noticed that when you're talking about anytime you bring up a financial ask, I think most anybody on council is going to say, what's it for? What's the scope? What are we spending it on? We aren't there yet. So I noticed that, in our minutes, we need to make sure we make that motion to approve the minutes. We referred this to both committees, the Economic Development and the Planning Committee. I think that made sense. I think it was a good thing that we did. That's what we reported back to council that we're doing. I'm just wondering if the next step is to do a joint meeting to talk through a scope. I don't know. I think maybe I just noticed that when I was reviewing the minutes, that we've already referred it to both committees, and I don't know how y'all intend to spread that out. And I understand that tonight was just an update piece, but y'all be thinking about that when you tell us what our next step needs to be.
Well, maybe another idea is we could cross-refer to the P&Z committee, and then if we wanted a full council feel, I know workshops can get loaded up with items very quick, but it might be a workshop topic too.
Well, if that's an interesting dynamic that you've just stated. I mean, I guess that changes the request a little bit. I mean, do we know where planning is in regards to this?
The committee or the department?
What's that?
The committee or the department?
The planning department, I mean, the committee, I'm sorry, Because if it's referred to planning committee,
It was referred to both.
Yeah, the
right,
church.
for
Do y'all wanna-
both, right.
Yeah.
I think maybe the way y'all handle it is just to come back and make a recommendation of what you hone in. I mean, if this is an update, I don't want to slow things down either.
Yeah,
Y'all
I
tell
mean,
us
I-
what you're
I-
looking for.
Right. Yeah.
So we need to get in front of the P and Z as well, but we wanted to
Uh-huh.
build out the idea enough to support what y'all had envisioned before we did that. So
I
I think
think
if,
you've captured it.
okay, if y'all
Yeah,
think
I do
we're close
believe-
enough, we can go and present this to them as well, get their feedback,
Okay,
and
then,
then commingle the two ideas and
there you
bring
go.
it back.
Then
So-
come back to us before you go to individual council members to.
Yep.
Right,
share the
okay,
concept.
then that makes sense. So this, we'll request that you refer it to P and Z. Right, okay.
I think
Perfect.
one thing, well, first of all, thank you for all the hard work that you
Mm.
put into this. I think it's important, not just for the 161, 274 corridor, but all other corridors around the county that need to have a study like this done, south side and others. So I'm excited about that. We talk about being intentional about our growth and preserving the character of York County, and we have a chance to do it in unincorporated York County. So to me, this is exciting.
Well, thank you, and I also owe credit to Planning and Development Services because they've shown great eagerness and interest in being involved in a project like this. And if it can come to its fruition, I think we can come up with imaginative solutions to maybe piggyback it with the comprehensive plan project and, try not to give anybody any sticker shock.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. We appreciate
you.
it, Tom.
Yeah,
Great
Tom,
work.
thanks.
Since we've already voted on our minutes from, at the beginning of the meeting, number one, is there anything else you guys want to share?
Did we vote on the
We
minutes?
did.
Oh, I didn't remember
That's
that.
the first thing we did.
Yeah,
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope.
no, I think I'm good.
I have one thing I want to share as a result of the process at Costco. I mentioned this to Josh a couple of weeks ago. I think there's value in us creating a list for the school districts to see what our incentives are for them, going all the way back to the first one that's on the books from years ago, and show them how much income's coming in from that, and then when to expect additional income. I mean, I think if I were a school board member and I'm trying to plan a budget, but I have no idea how much new revenue could be coming in the upcoming year, that'd be somewhat difficult to do, or it'd be a great opportunity to know what that is. So I'd like for our staff to put something together, create a pattern of sharing it, whether it's quarterly, where you give them a quarterly update on where they are. I think this would be impactful and helpful for them when they're trying to plan the finances of the school district. So I'd like for you all to come back and present something to this group. It kind of goes under F&O, I know, but since it originated out of here, it doesn't really matter what committee it goes to, but I'd like to see us put something together for the benefit of the school districts.
Well, I think I hear your intent. I think our goal is to continue to build relationships with the superintendents and the school boards, and I hear
Sure.
that in your request. I think what we can do is think about how we report
Okay,
and share information
that'd be great.
and
Yeah.
kind of the impact of the investments in the community and how that translates into funding for all both the municipalities, the schools, and the county. I think that's a value add for everybody. So
Yeah,
Mitch, Tom, and I can take a look at that and kind of share information with you.
yeah, and I think the same thing for county council, to also see this ongoing list of incentives and when they expire, and the revenue that's generated for us as well would help us in our budgeting. Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to bring up tonight. If there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, we will adjourn. Thank you.
Aye.